Greg Vanney, the way he communicates with the media, but also the way he just kind of answers questions and talks. It felt like this was the shift and the gear that LA Galaxy needed to move into to start a new chapter. And I thought they played great. I think there's still some, as you said, some pieces to come. But even more importantly, what a moment for Chicharito. And I know you're going to talk about that. But don't get too excited, because they could lose the next game. And we see this with teams that are rebuilding and, kind of finding their feet again. But for a 5-star team to come back against the new shiny toy, as I said to Greg Vanney in the presser the other day, and win, I thought it was emphatic.
Yeah, I mean, this is the way you want to start, right? This is the way. If you're Greg Vanney, right, you couldn't ask for a more perfect of a start. And I know for you, Chris, you were at a game day experience. Tell us how you lived that game day experience out there in Van Nuys.
First of all, let me just say the viewing parties with the LA Galaxy fans are second to none. These guys really do bring the heat every time. This game can best be summarized as a story of two halves, okay? That first half, going into this game, there were so many questions for the LA Galaxy. Is Chicharito going to be the same Chicharito he was last season, or is Chicharito going to be the player that we all hope he'll be, right? We had some questions about some of the new signings. We've seen very little of Samuel Grandsir. We have some questions of Victor Vasquez, whether or not he has the legs to go a full 90. Had some questions about Jonathan Dos Santos and whether or not the injury he had last year would impede him this season. Just so many different questions. That first half, I would say the energy was a little gloomy. A lot of fans weren't really seeing much production from Chicharito. I believe he had 10 touches in that entire first half. I do believe Jonathan Bond had more touches than Chicharito had the entire game. Which is ridiculous to think about, that your goalkeeper has more touches than your $7 million striker, right? But that second half, and like Sophie said, it's still very early to say and cheer for victory here. It's very early on. We can still lose the next game. But that second half definitely did feel like Greg Vanney has put some fire into this team. The substitutions that he made were excellent. Literally 4 minutes after Ethan Zubak came on and Harvey came on, the team just changed almost completely. And that's when the offense got a little more potent. And that's when the goals came. So definitely a tale of two halves.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just like a lot that went into this game. You had all these different emotions, and quickly in the chat this week in MLS says we love the Galaxy guys. So, hey man, you got some fans in here.
That's my boy Eli Lesser from this week in MLS.
He's loving you, man. So, but yeah, I mean, I just want to go on this lineup. Just read off this lineup, right? So we had Jonathan Bond. Obviously our goalkeeper. Then you had O'Neal Fisher at right back. We knew that was going to happen because Joan Araujo, he had the red card, so he wasn't able to play. You had Daniel Stairs, Nick DePuy, Villafana. Then you had Jonathan Dos Santos paired up with Adam Saldana. Obviously, Victor Vasquez was up there in the middle. Sebastian Lletget on the right. Grant Sir on the left, and obviously the lone striker with Chicharito up top. It was very interesting to see. I think Adam Saldana was the biggest surprise for me, because I think I didn't know. Obviously, not being at the games or not being at the practices, you don't really you're able to tell who's been breaking out, right? Watching the games from home, watching the games on TV. But I really like what Adam Saldana has done for himself within this team, and to build his own stock with it. I know Taylor Twelvin talked about him being challenged at times, but I think him making the leap from Galaxy 2 to Galaxy 1 is what you want to see, right? You want to see these young guys get that opportunity and get those starts. So I was very excited for him. I think he's only going to get better with time, and it also comes with learning the system, getting used to the system, and also it's a fast-paced game. But I think one big thing that came into this game that maybe not a lot of people are talking about is how hot this game really was. And it was 90 degrees. If anybody's been in Florida, if anybody's been in Miami, the humidity is insane. It's so sticky. It's not only you're playing in 90 degrees, you're playing and it's so hard to breathe. And I think we saw that between both players. I know at times the camera would zoom in to Higuain and his big beard, right? And you didn't know if he was out of breath, or you didn't know. He looked like someone's uncle still, I don't want to give him too shade, but he looked, I don't know, he looked different with that beard. I've never seen him with that beard. And it was just interesting to see that, and I'm glad that the MLS, they had those 2 water breaks, right? Because it's so crucial. And typically, when you see those water breaks, us watching the game here, and it's a different story. But when you see that, how much do you think that affected the game in the first half, Sophie?
Well, I think that it definitely affected LA Galaxy. Look, I think sometimes we take for granted what athletes can do. And I believe that they too have gone through a difficult time during this pandemic. And we've asked them to do a lot of heroic things when we were all protected in our homes, working from home. Yes, they're paid a lot of money and some of them are not, but they had to go off and play in the bubble in Orlando. Which was intense. I mean, talk about sweating. I mean, talk about playing in intense weather conditions. I mean, that was really brutal. And at the same time, you're having to deal with all of the things that are going on in this world and in this life. And I think that, for Greg, I think he conditions his teams really well. He's the type of coach that takes all of those components exceptionally seriously. I think that when you have someone like Chicharito, who looked very out of form and out of shape last season, I know I was harsh a couple times where I said it looked like he was carrying a spare tire, but I meant that with a great respect, in the sense that he if he's going to be successful, he needs to be leaner. He needs to really take care of himself. And as we've seen, as we've gone through a difficult time, so have some of these players. So, it's the first game of the season. You're not game fit yet. You're not match fit yet. And that showed in the first half. But the fact that they were able to make the adjustments says everything about this team and how they're organized, and that they're ready for those adjustments, and the players can adapt to those adjustments. And I think that's the most important thing here. Also, when you're playing away from home, you're soaking in the pressure a little bit. You want to do a little bit of countering. And we'll talk about kind of what happened with Zubac in the second half and stuff. But, overall, dealing with the conditions, I thought that I was expecting a soft start. I wasn't expecting them to go all guns blazing. I was expecting Inter Miami to have an impact, to come out full force, to try and put LA Galaxy under the cosh, to get an early goal, to do all of those things. A home team who really is considering this season their very first season, right? They feel like this is their true coming out party. So, yes, I was expecting that, but I was also really encouraged by seeing how the team were able to adjust to all of the challenges that they faced. It was a good sign.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a good sign, right? How they were able to come back. But Chris, tell us how you guys were living the game, because like I said, you were at the game day, right? What did they think when Inter Miami went up 1-0? Was it an offsides? What was the emotion like over there?
The initial reaction to that was everyone yelled VAR almost at the same time. And when the VAR came up, it's one of those things, right? MLS has this rule where it has to be clear and obvious, and it definitely wasn't clear and obvious. You can make an argument for both, right? So in my opinion, it wasn't an offside. It was a fair goal. It was a fair goal, and it stands. But the fans during that first half were I wouldn't say gloomy. The word that I'm trying to use here is they were a little down, right? Because they were seeing a lot of what we saw last season. The midfield passed and passed and passed, and they absorbed pressure. You spoke of Adam Saldana. Adam Saldana had himself quite the night. He had 38 accurate passes on the night, and that was a pass success rate of 100%. He made all of his passes.
That's insane.
You look at Victor Vasquez. Victor Vasquez had 50 accurate passes. He was all over that midfield, a 91 pass success rate. Jonathan Dos Santos he passed really well, but that was the problem, right? The fans really wanted to see that offense. They wanted to see Samuel Grandsir get involved. He didn't really get involved very much. He was dispossessed several times on the ball. They didn't really see a lot of Chicharito. Like I mentioned earlier, he had very few touches, had a couple heavy touches, one chance that he kind of squandered, a run that he really wasn't fast enough to get to on a Jonah Dos Santos pass. So, the fans were the emotion was a little bit similar to 2020, but that second half, which I know we'll talk a little bit more in detail, was different. It was a total switch in that second half, but that was what I saw.
Yeah, no, all right, like the first half was a bit challenging, right, for the LA Galaxy, and what I think they had to adjust to the weather and to the heat, which we talked about. But I also think there were some positive signs in the first half. Nick Dupuis, what he did on a couple of those slide tackles on Higuain was very impressive, and I feel like he had, like, the defense didn't really let maybe outside of that controversial offsides or no offsides, right? Because what we saw from initially the offsides, the angles were kind of off, like what they were showing us, and then I think finally they showed us the midfield camera angle, which kind of made it a little bit more clear, but it was still controversial. But I think what I really liked from the LA Galaxy was the defensive side, right? What Nick Dupuis did, and especially who was going to step up in that center back role. I think some of those questions were answered, and you kind of saw a different side of the LA Galaxy, especially defensively. And I quickly just want to give a shout out to Mike Jones, who's following us on the live stream. Also, Justin Estrada is talking about Nick Dupuis. But Sophie, what did you think about Nick Dupuis in that first half and a couple of those tackles that he had?
I completely agree with you. And here's the other thing that I think is really important too. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe I'm jumping the gun here a little bit, but I think LA Galaxy may have found the right goalkeeper. There's the weak link, right, was definitely a little bit of both sides of the pitch for LA Galaxy last season, especially. But the defense was really kind of where things fell apart very quickly. And what happened was that when LA would concede, heads would go down. There'd be no confidence. And a centre back is really only as good as the voice behind him and the feet in front of him, in my opinion. That midfield becomes critical, especially as the team's in a transition. You got new players coming in, so they're all trying to gel really well. I think it was I'm not going to say it's a coming of age kind of game for Nick, but he definitely asserted some authority in that game. He's been questioned a little bit, but I think also a player that has come into a team with a lot of high pressure. I think anyone coming from LA Galaxy too as well, you guys across the board, and you mentioned Saldana, who's only 19 years old. 19 years old. He puts in a performance like that against a team in front of a David Beckham, and a Phil Neville and an Inter Miami team that everyone is kind of talking about. So to get back to it, though, the goalkeeper is so important. He talks, he's communicative. They can hear him. I think they're going to build a really great relationship. And then when you have someone like Steres there who brings that seniority, that kind of experience, and you need that, whether or not he's the right player, long term, forever and ever, his time will come. But for now, it works. And I think Nick Dupuis has benefited from having him by his side, but also the goalkeeper behind him. I think it gave them confidence. I think they had cohesion. I think positionally, they were so much better. I think even when they looked like they were under threat, and maybe it's because, let's see what happens when, we face a Sounders team, or a superior team and how that goes. But in terms of this test, and you can only go by the test in the game that's in front of you, I thought he did great. But I think the goalkeeper had everything to do with that confidence in the back line.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like you make a very great point on the goalkeeper, and I definitely want to hit on Jonathan Bond. But I think that team, this LA Galaxy team was missing this last season. We didn't know, right? The goalkeeping situation was always up and down. And I like what you said, Sophie, because having that voice back there, having those eyes back there, knowing that this guy has your back, knowing if you, for whatever reason, if you're downstairs and Nick Dupuis, you get beat, you have a solid goalkeeper, and you have a goalkeeper from what we've seen in the preseason be solid. And the two goals that the Inter Miami scored, one was off a breakaway goal. No keeper is going to stop that, right? And the second one was a penalty kick. So when you look at this game and you look at this, and I think even Jonathan Bond talked about, like, he didn't really I'm just paraphrasing here, but what I understood from him was like he didn't really feel threatened by them. Maybe a couple different chances, but those two goals were not necessarily on Jonathan Bond. It's just what happened, right? No goalkeeper, 50-50 on a penalty kick, right? And the other goal is different. But I think you make a great point that the goalkeeping situation boosts us a lot of confidence, and that confidence goes to that back line, goes to the midfield, because I feel like it lets those center backs breathe a little bit.
Yeah.
I think what I'm understanding what you're saying, and I think they play with a lot more confidence. And you still got Pipo Gonzalez who's injured. You got Derek Williams, who assuming he may be one of those. A lot of people are speculating he may be one of the starters. But now when you look at this team, and now when you look at the job that Daniel Stairs and Nick Dupuis did, you have depth, and you have a team where guys within the team are going to fight for a position. It's not going to be easy, right? And I think that's what great teams have. And that I think obviously we know Galaxy want to be a great team this year. We know Greg Vandy talked about wanting to win a championship. Well, this is what you have to have. You have to have a competition at every position, and I think that's what we're starting to find out. What do you think of Nick Dupuis' performance, Chris?
I think he had himself a fantastic night. It's very reassuring to see, because let's be honest, Nick Dupuis is going to be a backup center back this season. As soon as Derek Williams comes back and he's healthy, there's no way Nick Dupuis becomes a starter over Derek Williams. Okay. But it was very, very reassuring to see O'Neal Fisher put in a very good performance as a backup, and to see Nick Dupuis put in a very good performance as a backup. He had 54 accurate passes, a pass success rate of 95 out of the back. He seemed very calm on the ball. Definitely a big game. Like Sophie said earlier, you had a who's who. Tom Brady was there, the commissioner, David Beckham. Some of these young players really stepped up to the plate and didn't let that rattle them. Nick Dupuis had himself a great night. He had 4 duels won on the night. There were key stoppage, right? O'Neal Fisher had a great night. And we talk about Jonathan Bond. And I said this last night on my show, okay? As a long life Galaxy fan, the last good goalkeeper that I remember this Galaxy team having is Jaime Pinedo. So since then, I can safely say that since Jaime Pinedo, not Donovan Ricketts, not Dan Kennedy, not Rowe or Bingham, I can safely say that Jonathan Bond is the best goalkeeper the Galaxy has had since Jaime Pinedo. And even though it's only been preseason and one game, he's already showing to be that goalkeeper that the Galaxy so desperately needed these last couple of seasons. So
do you know what else he has? You know what else he has, guys? He has that cockiness that goalkeepers need. And I say that like respectfully because he's not a cocky person, but when he's a goalkeeper, when he's doing his job, he has that about him, and it's so important to have that. And you know what? It comes across in the press conferences too when he's speaking. He's not arrogant, but he has this cocky confidence that you could just tell is perfect for this team, and it's perfect for this coach. I think he's going to be a very important leader for this team this season.
Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, right? What we've seen, and I think just the vocal leadership that he has and that voice that he has, it just makes all the difference when you're looking at this team and you're looking at like completely different team from the first preseason game that I saw, and I was like, wow, like and I think whether it's cockiness, whether it's confidence, this is what you want from your goalkeeper. right? This is exactly what you want from your goalkeeper. This is
Yep.
this is what you want from Jonathan Bond to right. Hey, he came in saying he wanted to be the starter. We didn't know anything about him. We knew what he was a backup, right, in the Premier League, but we wanted to see him start and solidify that position for the LA Galaxy, and he's done that every step of the way. Now I think we also want to see him when they're challenged, and I think he was challenged a little bit going down early, right? This whole team was challenged going down early, and to me the biggest thing was like how when they went down 1-0, right before the half, you never want to concede a goal right before the half. When that happens, I was like, okay, we're gonna learn a lot about the LA Galaxy. Is this the LA Galaxy of old, or is this a new LA Galaxy, right? And I think we learned so much because I've saw a lot of fans on Twitter, they're blasting Chicharito, and I was like, and in the back of my mind, this game is not even over yet before you tear this man apart yet, right? Like, I usually like to wait till at the end of the game to potentially criticize a player how they did, but I was very interested to see how they were going to do. And I think once I believe it was like the 58th minute when Ethan Zubak came in for Samuel Grandsir, who by the way is playing his second game. I think the first preseason game he only played about 30 minutes, so he's still getting his feet wet. And then Carlos Harvey came in from Adam Saldana, and Taylor Tillman talked about this in the game. That literally, I feel like that changed the game, and obviously they went to a 4-4-2 formation. I know Greg Vanney talked about not necessarily saying that it was a formation was the reason because of what they won. Whether it's a formation or the changes, right, that literally changed the game for them, because to be a head coach, we haven't seen from the LA Galaxy head coach the last 4 years to be willing to change your strategy mid-game, right? And that tells you a lot about a coach, and I think that told us a lot, us in the media, us covering the team, what Greg Vanney is willing to do. To me, it's like, hey, let's scratch this plan. This plan is not working. Let's go with something else. Let's give Chicharito support up top. Sophie, what did you think of Greg Vanney's changes when that happened, which changed the game?
Yeah, I mean, that was my thing to him in the presser, was that move, that substitution did change the game. It's an old, I'd say, we're all kind of joking about the 4-4-2 and stuff, but listen, Chicharito, when he's been successful in his career, he's always had that, to play that player to play off. I think what I like about what happened, though, is as much as Zubak brought that support and openness and added an element of danger that I don't think Inter Miami were prepared for him. It's kind of like a NFL when a quarterback has one of those amazing games and then all teams get film. I don't think my Inter Miami coach was thinking or worried about Zubak. He's worried about Chicharito. But what Zubak did was he opened up the channels for Chicharito. What I love about what he did, the first goal was vintage quality, top shelf striker. He took the ball. His touch was amazing and he buried it. And I think it was important for him to get his two types of different goals that we know can score. Yes, still in the box, but the way he took the goal and the way he finished was unbelievable. But again, the change enabled that to happen. And then, of course, the second one was a bit of a tap-in, but that's vintage Chicharito too, in that 6-yard area as well. So for me, here's a coach who's adaptable. Again, had to deal with the weather, team adapts. Manages the process. Those water breaks are great. He can talk to his players. He can just chill things down. Mikel Arteta, Arsenal, my team, they benefited hugely from the water breaks during the first project restart with COVID, and when you're a man manager the way he is, the way he puts his arm around players, it's so important. So it was a phenomenal substitution. Yes, it's the first game, but to see and come from an era where you're watching GBS not make changes, not make substitutions, put square pegs in round holes, it felt really refreshing. Here's a manager who knows his team, he knows his players, he knows what they're capable of, he knows what they can do, and he's willing to take a risk in order to win the game. And he did that, and it paid off.
Yeah, no, it was very exciting. We got G-Man Galaxy in the chat, giving us some a little bit of banter, but he says hi, Sophia. So I don't know if you know him.
No, I can't see it. What's he saying?
Oh, he's just saying hi, Sophia. I think
hi.
He said you're the GOAT, so that is
That's nice.
So he says hi to you. but Chris, talk to us about, like, once you saw those changes came in, obviously it completely changed the game for the LA Galaxy. But when you saw that, because what Sophie said, we come from a GPS era, right, which
Right.
wasn't successful. That to me, I was like, okay, I know a Greg Vanney, he's willing to change his formation, but is he willing to change it mid-game? And I think that spoke a lot of volumes, right? What did you think when you saw Ethan Zubac? Because obviously some fans feel indifferent about Ethan Zubac. Let's just put it that way. But I mean,
there's no in between. You either
there's no
love
in
him
between,
or
right?
hate him.
But what he does on the field, he's proven to play, right? So it's like, and when he put in Ethan Zubac and Carlos Harvey, and you heard Taylor Twellman say, hey, they're going to go to a 4-4-2. What did you think of?
Listen, I thought that it was needed because the game was very stagnant up until that point, and it was very clear that Chicharito just wasn't going to do it alone. He needed that support. He needed some speed, some fresh legs in there. Samuel Grandsir went 58 minutes this game, which is very reassuring, knowing that he's been without soccer. He's not match fit. He's been without soccer for almost close to a year now. It was very reassuring that he went 58. You got to remember his first game in preseason, he only went 25 minutes for the Galaxy. So he definitely wasn't match fit. They needed some fresh legs. They needed a spark in the offense. And Ethan Zubac definitely provided that. 58th minute, he comes on. Literally 4 minutes after he comes on, it's a noticeable difference. And minute 62nd, that's obviously when the first Javier Chicharito Hernandez goal came. And like Sophie said, she described it perfectly. It was a fantastic goal. It was fantastic. Exactly what you want to see from a striker, from your star striker, your $7.2 million man, right? So I was very happy with those changes. It definitely changed the complexion of the game. And I mean, we got the win. So clapping for Greg Vanney.
Yeah. And I'm quickly, so I got here. G-Man keeps telling us to touch our nose. I don't know why he wants us to touch our nose. But he's talking about us, people, if you guys are listening, we got this chat. But I'm going to play the Chicharito goal, the first goal, which is just vintage Chicharito. So here, give it a couple seconds.
Ever the fashionista. Zubac. Hernandez, that's his moment. Javier Hernandez equalises for the Galaxy. And of all the goals he scored at so many clubs over so many seasons, few will have brought more relief than that.
Right. I mean, you see that first goal and you're like, me watching Chicharito play for the national team, me watching Chicharito's career, I was like, I've seen him score this goal multiple times with different clubs, with the national team. And I was like, okay, I had the feeling, I was like, he's going to score another goal. Like I literally, because the weight was off his shoulders. Now is just, he just plays. Now he just plays. Right. So, like, we go through a little timeline, right? Then was it Villafana gets the penalty called on him. They score, so they go up. The momentum changes for them, and then come back. Zubac breaks out wide. Chicharito, it was Victor Vasquez, excuse me, that got the cross inside. And who do you know? Chicharito's right there to put it in, and I think that's when you started flowing. And you're like, everybody was rooting for Chicharito to do good. I don't think any necessarily Galaxy fan wanted him to do bad, but I think once he scored that second goal, it was like, okay, he's back. How'd you feel about how quick the game went back and forth, Sophie? Like just quick back and forth goal. Chicharito scores, then Higuaín scores that penalty, and then come back. Chicharito scores again.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think once he got that first goal, it felt like it was the kind of game that he could get another one. When a striker scores a goal, especially after they've been, ripped to shreds. And I ripped him to shreds last season because I expected a little bit more from him, to be honest with you, especially coming into MLS. But the truth is he hadn't been the same player, even when he was at West Ham, even when he was in Spain. And it feels like this was the last chance for him to really prove, what a good player he's been in his career. He's played for United and Real Madrid, top level, played with top players. And there was a sadness to him last year. And you could feel that. And we all go through difficult things in our lives. And sometimes that affects our job and how we do our jobs, affects our relationships with other people. And sometimes I think that, you know, we take the human element out of it for athletes because we put them on this pedestal and we just expect them, you know, because they earn so much money, just go out and do your job. But the world doesn't work that way. And for him to be so vulnerable in the press conference and come out and talk about mental health and, you know, difficult time that he's had, he really did something that not a lot of athletes do, and he put his heart on the line. And then to back that up, going into the game and performing well, looking a lot more svelte and scoring, as I said, the 2 different types of goals, I just felt like, you know, man, if he can keep this up, if it's not a 1-game wonder, if he can back it up game after game, like be that leader, be a true captain for this team. It seems the players are behind him. You could sense in that celebration, you guys just saw it. Everyone was stoked for him. And I, for one, you know, love to be proved wrong when I criticize players or come at a player because of the way they're performing. And I tell you something, it'd be great for him to carry this on this season and have a lot of people eat humble pie, because we saw 2 different finishes that were very vintage Chicharito. And I think the league needs that this year, but more importantly, the Galaxy needs it.
Yeah, Chris, tell us when you saw him score the second goal, right? And I keep telling you, you're at the game. Did that place just erupt? Like, how were people feeling about Chicharito? Because I know there's so many mixed feelings about Chicharito, but how did people feel at the game day experience when he scored that second goal?
Oh, it just exploded. It exploded. I mean, it was like a release valve. Like, the fans have been wanting this for 2 years now, right? Javier Chicharito Hernandez, Gio, you said this perfectly. It was a lot of weight on his shoulders. It was the mountain on his shoulders. And in one game, he has now equaled his tally for the last 12 games last season, where he had 2 goals, right? So he has that weight off of his back now. And like Sophie said, you know, we have to consider the human element, right? We have to give him the benefit of the doubt. We have to remember that Javier is in the process of a divorce. At the very least, it's a separation. I know his wife has now moved back home with his kids. So we have to assume that last year, I mean, this isn't probably something that just came out of nowhere. He might have been having some marital troubles, prior to even coming to LA. So his mind was probably not really committed. He was here physically in Los Angeles with us, but his mind was somewhere else. And it definitely feels like now that the goals are out of the way, he's got his first 2 goals, he can now focus completely and just commit himself 100% to the team. And that's going to help him. He's a guy that wears his emotions on his sleeve. We've seen it time and time again. He's a very emotional guy, very likable. So the fans we do really want him to succeed. Going forward, Sophie, I think that 16 goals is realistic to say. Gio, we spoke about this the last time you had me on. You said 15 goals. Mathematically, if you do the stats and averages and you analyze it, it should be 16 goals minimum for Chicharito.
I like it. I like it. We put this question here in the chat. Alex Ruiz says he needed to score to get the weight of him last year. I'm glad to see him enjoying himself on the pitch. I'm just gonna play the second goal because I got it up here. So we're just gonna watch it. We're gonna enjoy it because this game was a thrill to watch.
The Sporting Kansas City have won on their travels. That's a great ball in, and Hernandez is there to poach his second. Zubak's header saved. Hernandez there to pounce. And he's doubled his career tally of LA Galaxy goals in the space of 10 minutes.
That comment from John Champion, though.
Yeah. he has doubled what he scored, because literally that's what everybody said, right? That's what literally everybody said. But I think for me, like when he scored the second goal, I was like, he's rolling. And I know, Sophie, I think you tweeted at me hat trick. Like, I was like, it has to happen, right? Like it has to. I think the only thing that was missing in this game, it was that it wasn't at Dignity Health Sports Park. Because if this game was at Dignity Health Sports Park to see how they fought back and came back, this would go down in Chicharito history, right? To see how he started off the game, came back, they were down 1-0, and he scored 2 goals. I think that's the only thing that missed from this game. But nevertheless, it was exciting to see him score that second goal. And now I think the goals are just going to come. It's natural. Like, he doesn't have to think about it. The runs are just going to come. Him and Victor Vasquez, I feel like they're rarely understanding. And then, Greg Vanney had talked about Victor Vasquez being the playmaker for this team. And I'm starting to see that more and more. But Sophie, when Chicharito scored that goal, we also know Sasha Klesman came in. And when Sasha scored that third goal and just, curved it, like I didn't think it was going to go in. Once I saw the replay and how he curved it in, what do you think? What did you think of Sasha Klesman's goal?
Sasha's such an interesting guy, isn't he? And a veteran. I think he's going to have. Greg Vanney's so smart, right? Because he's got a few young players and he's got a new team coming together, but he also has some experienced players. Chicharito's an experienced player. Victor Vasquez, I think, he's 34. If he can stay fit, I think he's going to be really important to this team. And I also believe that Sasha Klestan will have a say as a super sub this season. You can't buy that experience. And especially in MLS when rosters change and things shift, season on season, to have a few veteran players in the mix here. And of course, once Dos Santos gets back into his match fitness, the dude was injured for a very long time, had to come back from that as well. I think he has a lot to prove this season. But to see Sasha get that goal and for it to be him, I thought it was brilliant. And I think that there's 2 or 3 players on this team that are going to have the ability to do that this season. And if you're going to be a success, you need that. Look at the Sounders. I mean, they can get a goal from very different places on the pitch. So important, especially if Chicharito dries up for a couple games, that the goals that they're able to get these goals from a variety of positions. So it was great to see that, especially from a veteran player.
Yeah. Chris, you're getting a lot of love in the chat. They're calling you the GOAT now, which I love. Tell us. G-Man Galaxy has been killing it in the chat. So has Alex. But Chris, tell us how it was, right? When Sasha scored the goal, I knew the place had to erupt. And Van Nuys, I knew you guys had to erupt over there. Tell me how you guys experienced that goal and what you felt for Sasha scoring that third goal.
Listen, it was amazing to see this because the last couple of seasons, we've seen one thing that's been a constant for this LA Galaxy is that they tend to fall apart in the second half, right? We saw so many times, time and time again, this LA Galaxy team in previous years squander, 2-goal leads. We saw them lose and fall apart. So it was extremely refreshing to see them rally up. And some of those super subs, like Sophie said, Sasha Klestan definitely, I think, will be a super sub this season. It was phenomenal to see him. That was a classic Sasha Klestan goal. It was phenomenal to see the goalkeeper just stand there, totally unexpected. But yeah, it was an exciting moment. You guys talked about Victor Vasquez. Listen, I had to eat some of that humble pie myself, Sophie, okay, because I was probably one of the most critical people when the Victor Vasquez rumor mill started. And I actually got to interview Victor Vasquez. I interviewed him before he came to LA. He was all over the midfield. He was active. He was going up and down the pitch. He was on the wings. He was everywhere. That heat map is ridiculous. He created chances. He made some great passes, made smart runs, directed traffic, basically everything you'd want to see from a midfielder. So when you have the experience of Victor Vasquez and Sasha Klestan in there, it's a win-win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. I think, like I said, we saw a lot of what Greg Vanney was telling us about, about Victor Vasquez and the changes they made. I just want to give a little bit of love to the chat. Chris G-Man says, Chris the GOAT, boat going shopping using a tote, pinching out loaves. I don't even know what that means. Alex Ruiz says, I thought Carlos Harvey played pretty good. I did too. Carlos Harvey has some speed. That dude can run. I thought we also got Hybrid Squad. Sophie, You got some fan, you got some loves here. But yeah, no, I thought this game really taught us a lot about the LA Galaxy, right? Because if we're gonna if because for Greg Vanney to come out and say that they're going to compete for a championship in the first season, obviously very bold, but I think that's what you want from your head coach. And a lot of coaches tend to stay away from that, right? But Greg Vanney's coming in here. He sees the pieces that he has, right? You have Chicharito, Jonathan Dos Santos, Kevin Cabral. We're still yet to see, but this team for me, I think it's only going to get better. Granted, it's just one game. I don't want to get too far ahead. But it is a great game because like when you go through something like this type of game, you go down, right? You go down early, but you come back and you're willing to fight and you're willing to put everything on the line for your team. I really felt like I learned so much about this LA Galaxy. I even got to ask Sasha a question about how does this feel about the team? And I'm just going to paraphrase here. He talked about it's a different vibe. It's a different energy. Their players are excited to come play, right? And we can just sense it from the press call, from talking to them and how they carry themselves. You could just really, really sense that. And I think that this is right. And on top of that, they're putting their pressure on themselves, which we didn't see that last year. Chicharito's talking about, I'm here to compete for a championship. I don't really care about how many goals I score. Yeah, the goals are going to come, but I just want to compete for a championship. And you keep hearing that. And I think the more that we see them play like this and the better they get, I think that's the likelihood that this can become a thing. But what do you think of Sophie? What do you think of Greg Vanney talk about championship, or what do you think about Chicharito reiterating that now after we saw one performance from them?
LA Galaxy is the most decorated team in Major League Soccer. They expect to win championships. So it's very important when a new manager comes in. I don't think he's overpromised. What he's saying is we're going to compete for a championship. And I think that, unfortunately, even when Zlatan was here, you didn't feel that there was that competitiveness throughout the team. You felt like it was 2, 3, 4 players maybe, right? So for him to come in, especially after what he's done at Toronto, especially being an LA Galaxy guy, he's laying down a marker. And he's also talking to the players as well as the fans and the community. We're going to compete for a championship. Hernandez didn't come here just to be a sideshow. He's come to help them win a championship. So I like that talk and I enjoy it because it illustrates that Vanney is a competitive guy, but he also believes in the team. And at the same time, he knows exactly what to say and how to say it. He's a very, very, I've been so impressed with him, honestly. I really have. It feels like, and I'm not comparing him to Bruce Arena because Bruce is like the Sir Alex Ferguson of Major League Soccer. He's like a god, right? But Vanney has that, he just has that element of, he's in control. He knows what he's doing. And when he says things, they matter because he just doesn't say them for a reason. So I love it. I really do. And I tell you, I'm so impressed with him. I think the LA Galaxy are in phenomenal hands this season.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. Chris, are MLS coaches underrated? Because what we're seeing from all these MLS coaches we've seen in the past, right? We know Galaxy have gone on, got international coaches. But do you feel like, MLS coaches are underrated? And what do you feel about Greg Vanney saying they want to compete for a championship?
MLS is a complete different beast to any other league in the world, right? There are rules here that only an MLS guy would understand, right? A guy like Greg Vanney, who's been with the league since forever, okay? So he knows this league like the back of his hand. So he might not be a Mourinho, right? But it's invaluable to have that insight and that knowledge as to how MLS works, how the other teams operate, how they play. I think Greg Vanney brings, the most important thing that Greg Vanney brings to this team is an identity, something that this team has been missing for nearly half a decade now, to be honest, since Bruce Arena left. Greg Vanney brings that original winning identity back to the LA Galaxy. He's an original. You have to remember, this is the LA Galaxy that has been in 9 MLS Cups, 9 MLS Cup finals in its entirety, and they've won 5, right? Like Sophie said, this is expected of them. Playoffs is a minimum. That's not a metric that the fans set, not a metric that the reporters set. That's a metric that the LA Galaxy set for themselves. And I think that Greg Vanney this season will get us at least to the playoffs.
Yeah, G-Man says Vanny needs to rock the scarf again, though. I like that. And then quickly, Alex says MLS over European Super League. I can go over that. There is a lot. We're not even going to touch that.
No,
we're not even going to touch that. Sophie was just talking about it for 2 hours, so we're not even going to touch that. But we're gonna finish things off here, guys. I think I just want to finish things off with I think we hit this on earlier, but I have this Chicharito's quote. I think this really taught us a lot about Chicharito, because we did not know what Chicharito was going through, because the team wasn't telling us, nobody was telling us what was going on with him last season. So I have this quote, and this is the quote that he said after the game. He says, "No one has an idea how tough this year and has been for me to gain confidence with the owners, with the team, with my teammates, and have the trust with me. I just want to help my team." I mean, what more can you ask for, right? He was very open with his emotions. He was very open of what he wanted to do, and he showed it day one. And I think if you're in LA Galaxy game after that, you have to buy in on Chicharito. You got to go on in, because the Chicharito is gonna, as good as Chicharito is this season, that's as good as the LA Galaxy are going to be. Point blank. I mean, if he's scoring goals, the Galaxy are going to do some damage. Quickly, I know you have something to say, Sophie.
I was going to say real quick, I would really like to see him be a bit more accessible to the media this year. Get your personality out there. You're a leader. You're the captain, right? Don't be afraid. Even if LA Galaxy loses a game, or he's got to be front and center more. He's got to be more of a leader. He shouldn't be afraid to talk to the media. And I'm not saying he was last season, but there was a protectiveness, which I understand. But, one of the things I don't like about Aubameyang, my Arsenal team, is like he hides when we lose. When he scores a hat trick, he comes out and he talks to everybody. You're a leader, you're a captain, you be there through the good and the bad, because this is going to be a roller coaster ride, guys. And not every game is going to be a game like Inter Miami. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs this season, hopefully more ups than downs. But he's got to be present, and he's got to be present with not only the media, the community, and really show, that side of it as well, I think, personally. It's just my humble opinion.
No, I completely agree with you. Kid says, in all seriousness, though, it's one game. We can 100%. We know it's one game, but I think you also got to applaud when a team comes back and wins away. They got 3 points. I mean, 3 points is not easy, especially playing in that type of humidity. Alex says, yeah, it just feels good to see the team have a good game. G-Man says, don't end the pod. 4 more hours. I don't know if we can go for 4 more hours, but we love that you're supporting us and you're listening to us. But quickly, before we let you go, Sophie, I know you got to get going. Let the people know where they can follow you and where they can listen to you.
Yeah, of course. You can follow me. I'm at Soccer Diva on Twitter. I'm not really a diva. It's just a name I came up with that years ago. But at Soccer Diva. And then at Highbury Squad, if you like a little bit of football, from Europe, not the Super League, you can listen to the Highbury Squad on YouTube. And actually, we just kicked off a stateside squad show. So every couple of weeks, we'll be talking MLS and doing some fun stuff. We'll have you guys on there as well. I'd love for you both to come on that show too. So always love talking football with Gio. Always love meeting new people as well. And I'm excited about this season. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, no, same here. Right, Chris, appreciate you being on. Let the people know where they can follow you, brother.
So they can find me on Instagram at The Galaxy Guy Podcast. I'm also on YouTube by the same name, The Galaxy Guy Podcast, or my website. That's where I upload most of my episodes. That's thegalaxyguy.com. And I usually post every Monday. There's a new video out every Monday. I go to the games. I get fan reactions. Fan reaction videos are up. I have a video from yesterday's game. So hope to see more of you, Sophie. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, no,
like
definitely.
I said,
you too.
Fan.
Yeah, no.
And Gio, thanks again for having me, brother.
No, this was great. We'd love to have you guys on, and everybody in the chat. Thank you guys for listening, and everybody that's listening to us on the podcast. Every Monday night, it's dedicated to the LA Galaxy. We have these experts, these people that know the LA Galaxy from the in and out. And obviously, if you guys want to chime in, those people listening, definitely chime in on YouTube. Or we got now on YouTube, Facebook, doing the Twitter live, trying to get as much engagement as we can. But hey, guys, if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to give this a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. You can also listen to this podcast on Spotify, wherever you get your music. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Gio Garcia LA. So for Sophie and for Chris, this is Gio. We'll catch you guys next time. Peace. Bye, everybody.